Hello and welcome back to the Odds Now YouTube channel for the latest edition of the EFL Betting Show, your sound of Friday and I suppose the start of another EFL weekend. Hopefully we're going to point you in the direction of a few winners over the coming 20 to 30 minutes or so. It's myself, Matt Hill, joined by my regular co-host, Mr. Gab Sutton, our EFL guru, who always brings the knowledge and brings the winners. He's certainly been bringing the winners recently, and I can tell you a little spoiler ahead of time here. A certain Notts County may well feature once again. Not give anything away, but regular viewers will be waiting to hear if Notts County are on, and I can confirm after their 1 week hiatus, they are back on the agenda. Gab, how's your week been?
I'm great, thanks, Matt. Yeah, good to be on and looking forward to getting into some selections.
Good stuff. Well, just while I'm here, if you haven't pressed subscribe, please do so. It only takes a second. We really appreciate having you on board. We're nearly at 700 subscribers. Would love you to help us get over that milestone here on the YouTube channel. And plenty of other good content on there this weekend. We've got the Premier League Betting Show, got a big weekend of boxing coming up, which has all been previewed on the channel. And we've got a brand new podcast, Better Days Ahead, which hopefully you've already tuned into. If not, do head to the channel and give that one a whirl, see if it's your kind of thing. Now, Gab, we're in the business of trying to find winners in the EFL. I noticed that our picks this week we're in tandem. We've got one from the Championship, one from League One, and one from League Two. But we'll start in the second tier, and I'm happy to kick things off this week. I think I normally put you into bat first, don't I? But I will go in for a change. I've gone for Portsmouth to beat QPR at 6-4 as my first bet of the weekend. Now, these are two teams who in 2025 have probably been two of the Championship's better performing sides outside of the big hitters. I think we've got, a set of 4 or 5 teams at the top who we expect to win most weeks. Then beyond that, it's a little bit erratic, I think it's fair to say, as we come to expect with England's second tier every season. But Portsmouth and QPR, they've been pretty good. Pompey have now won 4 of their last 8, including only a second away win of the season at Oxford last time out. And the other away win of the season, for what it's worth, came against QPR back in October. Now, QPR, they've wobbled a little bit recently, but generally, I think they've proven themselves to probably be a top half quality side. They've lost just 4 of their last 18 in the Championship, although 3 of those defeats have came in their last 5 matches. So it is a bit of a wobble for the R's at the moment. They head to Fratton Park with their tails up. They smashed Derby 4-0 last Friday night. It was a dominant display. Elias Chair, a player that I'm a massive fan of, he was at his devastating best in that one. But the reason I want to get with Portsmouth in this game in particular is quite simple. Their home form, it is outstanding. And QPR's away record, particularly in recent times, is mediocre at best. Now, if I touch on Pompey first, they've accrued 26 of their 36-point total at Fratton Park, and that is despite not winning any of their first 6 home games this season. So since that abject start at home, they've actually played 10, won 7, drawn 2 and lost just 1, a 1-0 loss to Millwall. So it really is Fortress Fratton Park again. And I always felt like that was going to be really important for Pompey in terms of maintaining their place in the Championship, making home where the heart is. And it's such a great atmosphere there at Fratton Park. Everyone who's been will know what it's like when it's rocking, and it's really playing into their hands at the moment there. QPR, meanwhile, their away record, when you actually look at it, is quite respectable. They've got 18 points away from home this season. But if you dig into it a little bit deeper, it's 4 wins, 6 draws, and 6 losses. And the 4 wins have all come against bottom 5 sides. They've beaten Plymouth, Luton, Hull, and Cardiff. So they've kind of beaten, in the greatest respect, the dross of the Championship this season, but against every other sort of reasonable opponent, they've failed to win. 6 defeats, as I mentioned, on the road, and 5 of those they've failed to even score a goal. So they are quite vulnerable on their travels, I think it's fair to say. Now, you could look at the league and say to me here, well, Portsmouth are one of the bottom sides in the league, and QPR have shown themselves to be quite proficient at beating the bottom sides of the league. But as I say, I don't believe this Portsmouth side on their home turf are a bottom 6 side. I actually think they're more like a playoff chasing side when they're playing at Fratton Park, to be honest. Very, very tough nut to crack here. And I just think for all the reasons mentioned, 6-4, I would have probably had them a little bit closer to 5-4, maybe even closing in on 6-5. And more towards touching that even money than all the way out at 6-4, which I always think is a price where, as a home team, there's question marks over you. I don't really have question marks over Portsmouth at home at the moment. I really have a lot of confidence in them. So I'm going to take that 6-4. I don't see enough of QPR's away record to make me think they can go to Fratton Park and win. Gab, feel free to tell me otherwise.
I do agree. I did really like QPR last Friday against Derby.
They were excellent. I'll give them that. They were excellent.
Yeah, so I do feel a little bit sheepish being this quick to go against them, but it is just that home form Fratton Park where Portsmouth are just a different animal when they play at home. They've obviously got Colby Bishop, who's that focal point. He brings that physicality. Callum Lang's injured for the rest of the season, which isn't great, but they have got quality out wide in Josh Murphy and his relationship with Conor Oglesby, the left back. Matt Ritchie as well is very fit for his age as well on the right hand side. And yeah, they're very strong against the ball under John Mousinho, and he's created a great culture there. So yeah, I'm happy to agree for the reasons that you've mentioned. And especially on the price, I think I would have hesitated to go against QPR if it was even money, but for a 6-4, I'm happy to go with it.
That's it. It is the price for me there. And to be honest, if you flip this game around and we're playing this game at Loftus Road tomorrow, I might be backing QPR at 6-4 because I think they've won 7 of their last 8 home matches. So it really is all about the home and away records here for me. And that's why I'm going to be keeping the faith in Portsmouth at Fratton Park. We'll stick it in the Championship. Over to you, Gab. Blackburn, they've lost their manager, but no immediate signs of implosion at Ewood Park. And they take on a Swansea side who've also been in the business of changing the man in the dugout this week. Luke Williams losing his job there. It's been a rotten time for Swansea recently, and you're backing Blackburn to pile on more misery for the Swans. You're backing them draw no bet at 21-20. Tell me why.
Well, do you know what I like, Matt, is that I think I'm backing David Lowe as caretaker of Blackburn, whether or not they stick with him until the end of the season.
Do you think they will stick with him?
No, I've actually got a feeling that they are going to make an appointment. However, I think that their playoff chances would improve if they stuck with somebody who already knows the playing staff and knows how to get the best out of them. Because I don't look at David Lowe and see somebody who's desperate to try and sort of appeal to Premier League clubs and, look at this sort of stylish brand of football. I see somebody who's more focused on, can I get results from my club? And I think that when you've got centre halves like Danny Bart, for instance, that's kind of what you want. You want somebody who's a little bit pragmatic and able to do what it takes to get those results, as opposed to trying to put their stamp on things. And I'll be a little bit worried that some of the candidates that I see Blackburn linked with might be a little bit too keen to sort of change things. So I've got a feeling it's going to continue as a good caretaker stint for David Lowe. And I'm also worried about Swansea City as well. They have parted company with Luke Williams, their head coach. Again, they're another club that's managerless. They are in a bit of free fall at the moment. Lots of defeats in 2025, basically since Williams was linked with the West Brom job. Things sort of went a bit pear-shaped with him, and there's a feeling that he was probably a bit too public in his sort of pursuit of that job, and
it didn't really distance himself, did he, from memory?
No, and that's probably where he's kind of burnt a few bridges with his own team. And then Matt Grimes leaving, of course, that's always going to hurt Swansea City. And I'm just a little bit worried that Swansea don't really have those kind of intangibles in place. And I'm sort of wondering whether they could be a bit of a plummeter. So you've got this Blackburn team that's got a familiar face as caretaker that seems to be getting results even after Eustace has left, against a Swansea side that you don't really know what to expect from. So I was amazed to see that Blackburn were 19-10 to win at Swansea. I'm going to go the slightly safer option with a draw no bet. So I'm going to go with the 21-20, but that still gives you an odds against quote for victory, and if Blackburn win, but it also means that your stake gets returned if the game finishes on as even.
Yeah, the only I hear you, to be honest, and I'm quite pro Blackburn at the moment, and I would be a little anti Swansea as well. I'm just always slightly concerned when there's a change of manager that there can be a positive reaction from the players, but all you describe, it is a club in a little bit of free fall at the moment and stuff. do we think there is any possibility that the departure of Williams could bring about an improvement, or do we think it's going to need a new man going in to eke out that improvement?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know. I just think that there's enough of a question mark there to go with that kind of price, because Swansea could deliver an improved performance, but still lose 1-0, or they might draw and we'd get our stake back. So yes, I understand that's a possibility, but I think there's evidence that David Lowe can get the best out of Blackburn, whereas I'm not sure who Swansea's caretaker is, but we don't have evidence yet about what sort of results that they can get. So that's why I'd side with Blackburn.
Yes, well vetted there when I put that question to you. I think that was a very fair point that you make. Even improvement, no guarantee that it's going to be enough for Swansea in this particular weekend. And odds against with the draw as the cover, looks very solid. Hard to fault it, really. Well, on to League One we go for our two selections there. And I'm putting my 100% record on the line here of corner bets. I've had 3 out of 3 this season. I've not had one for about a month. Thought it was time to get that little thinking cap back on with the corners, and I found an absolute belter this weekend, and I've gone really aggressive with it as well. So it could be going out in a blaze of glory here. Rotherham take on Barnsley in a game of two managers hugely under pressure, I would say, in League One, with two giant sides from not too far away from each other either. There's the derby elements factor into this game as well. But yeah, underperforming, I think it's fair to say. Two sides who would have had grand hopes of a playoff push this season in League One. It's not really worked out for either of them. Rotherham, it feels like Steve Evans has been saying he's fighting for his job for most of this season, to be honest. And he keeps referencing what is clearly an excellent relationship with the chairman, Tony Stewart. But even that can only excuse you for so long, and you've got to feel like he is quite close to the sack here, Evans, for all that's gone on. I think fans certainly would feel that way and feel like a negative result here could prompt a move. We shall see. I quite like Steve Evans and the way he goes about his business, actually. I know that's quite a minority view, but I really did think he would get them rolling. They look like they might be turning the corner around the turn of the year, I think, but 1 win in 6 since then has killed any hopes of any kind of playoff push. Damaging defeats, particularly to Shrewsbury at home, Reading away as well last time out. So frustration among the Millers fan base, I think it's fair to say. For Darrell Clarke at Barnsley, it's a similar story, to be honest. They spent the bulk of the season's early weeks in the playoffs, but then other than, I think it was a 4-game winning streak around New Year, they've been below par for a long time now. Just 5 points from 8 games before that winning run. And now I think they're winless in 6, and they've taken just 1 point in that sequence. So it's really
very streaky, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. But it's worrying, isn't it, that they can have 2 sustained periods of underperformance like that for me. But yeah, as you can see here, I'm back in the corners line. So the form is maybe a little bit irrelevant, but I do think it solidifies the case. But let me tell you why I'm back in the corners here. And as I say, the standard line on corners is normally about 9.5 in a game, under or over. That is 8-11 here. So corners are slightly expected by the market, but probably not as much as I'm expecting. Well, when Rotherham play at home, they average 6.8 corners a game. And that is the second highest tally in the league, only behind Huddersfield. And then when Barnsley play away, they average 6.3 corners a game, which is the best total in the league by a distance. So both teams have proven in these kind of fixtures that they do generate a lot of set pieces. And then I dug a little deeper into this one, and I found some unbelievable stats here. Despite their bang average performance this term from both sides, Rotherham and Barnsley sit first and second in League One for shots taken from set pieces this term. Rotherham have had a freakishly high 175 shots resulting from a set piece. And according to Opta, they should have had 18 goals from them set pieces, but they've only managed 12. So maybe Steve Evans' rant about his poor finishing, it actually has some credence to it, to be fair. And then Barnsley, they've also had 155 shots from set pieces, which is, both of these numbers are just astronomically above the league average. So clearly set pieces are a massive part of both teams' mantra. And I do think that when you're a team quite heavily reliant on set pieces and you're not playing well, set pieces are like the go-to, aren't they? It's kind of like, okay, well, what do? We get balls in the box. We try and earn set pieces. We try and score that way because our maybe our natural build-up play isn't flowing as well as we would like it to here.
Yeah, can I just point out as well?
You can.
I don't know if you mentioned shots in there, but in terms of shots per game, Barnsley averaged the second most in League One at 13.6, and Rotherham averaged the fifth most in 13.1. So loosely, and this feeds into your point about the number of corners, if you're taking lots of shots, there's a higher percentage.
Far more chance, isn't there? Yeah.
Exactly, that some of those shots are going to get saved and tipped round, or some of those shots are going to get blocked and go out for a corner, and that there's more possibility of corners to happen. Whereas if you're a team that doesn't shoot from outside the box and you're more focused on creating those clear-cut chances, there's probably going to be fewer opportunities for those shots that are intended at goal to sort of ricochet or get saved and go out for a corner. So
my thoughts. My thoughts precisely, Gab. Yes, so this is all why I'm leaning towards the corners. As I say, you can see on the bottom of the screen here, 11.5 corners is 7-4 with Sky Bet. It's a feat that both teams have covered plenty of times this year, and they're certainly both well above the league averages in this particular statistic. And I mentioned the form of both sides at the start of the game. Now, some people might think that's irrelevant when it comes to something like corner betting, but I actually don't think it is. I think the importance of a result here for both teams, I do see this being an end-to-end contest. I could see the case for goals and
the carrot's bigger than the stick, isn't it, Matt? In terms of, for both teams, the difference between a win and a draw is probably bigger than the difference between a draw and a defeat.
Precisely, yeah. I think there's a lot to gain here, and you could argue they're both not at rock bottom, but they're certainly not in a good place at the moment, are they? So I think if you can go and get those 3 points, add in the derby nature of the game as well, it's like 3 points that might feel like 4 points for the fans. And it's just, there's a lot of elements here. I'm struggling to find reasons not to want to be with the corners line here. So as I say, 9.5 is the standard line. I've gone nice and aggressive. You could get 11-10 on over 10.5, 7-4 on over 11.5. You can back all the way up to 14, 15, 16. If you want to, just have a fun pound or two on that. I do think this could be a real end-to-end crazy affair. So that's the way I'm playing it. We'll see if the 100% record lives to survive into next week.
Yeah.
Maybe well, I've got a bit too aggressive.
When I, as a Birmingham City fan, when we beat Aston Villa, it was 3 points that felt like 100 points.
yeah, maybe 3 points.
Derby,
3 points, it feels like 4. He's probably not doing it justice, is it? But particularly for Rotherham, I think I've got a rotten record in this fixture as well. So, it would be a big win for them. But that's the way I'm going on that one. Something a little bit different. Let's see how we get on. Gab, over to you in League One. We talk about new manager bounce already. A lot of managerial discussion in this week's show already. More here with Cambridge, who have reappointed Neil Harris this week. We were talking off camera about this being, to me, somewhat surprising that he's ended up back there, because I remember the noises when he left weren't all that positive amongst you supporters, but they've got him back. I'm sure if he could get results, then they'll soon forget any ill feeling. And they take on Stockport here, one of the best sides in the division for my money. But you want to be with Cambridge here, Gab. Tell us why.
Yeah, there's a few reasons. I am backing the instant Neil Harris impact. I do think the fans are going to go with him, and I've got a couple of reasons for that. The first one is, obviously he got results in his first stint at Cambridge. 18 points from 13 games was a great return. He has spoken in his first press conference that he admitted he could understand why fans felt a little bit hurt that he left so abruptly and didn't sort of communicate it as he should have done, and I like that he's sort of taken some accountability to that. I think the fact that Mark Bonner, who's a Cambridge United legend, has chosen him as a new director of football, and that Mark Bonner's appointment was confirmed at the same time as Neil Harris. So Bonner was literally introducing Harris in the press conference, and you kind of saw them together, and they seem to have a nice dynamic between the two of them. I think that probably plays into Harris's favour, because there's a lot of sort of I think fans are pleased to see Mark Bonner back, so that sort of takes some of the heat off Harris in some respects. But also, I think there's a feeling that he's probably one of the managers that you'd want. If I can, you asked me to think of a manager that you'd want at the bottom of League One to get you out of trouble. One of them would be Gareth Ainsworth, who's doing a great job at Shrewsbury.
Yep.
Probably the other one would be Neil Harris, because he gets teams fighting, he gets the intangibles spot on.
Let's be honest, Gab, he did a great job going back into Millwall as well, didn't he?
Yeah.
He's a galvanizer, isn't he? You can question his long term. Like, we see managers like this. I don't want to be like generic here, but Sam Allardyce, he forged a great reputation for going into clubs and very quickly making an impact. And maybe not the man to plan for 3, 4, 5 years, but that in terms of going in and lifting a changing room, he's certainly a man that can do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think Neil Harris has the ingredients to build something at Cambridge. I think at Championship level, he'd probably not sure whether he, anywhere other than Millwall, I think he might struggle. But I think for a club like Cambridge United, who are who have that feeling of a bit of an underdog. You go back to the 1980s under John Beck, and they've tended to be at their best in recent history when they've had teams who are very direct and horrible to play against and very physical. So I think is a good fit from that point of view. But to take it back to Saturday, I think it's going to be high ticket sales at the Abbey this weekend. I think people, with Bonner back, there's a bit of a feel good factor back. There's a bit of a feeling that there's a little bit of belief, a little bit like they're going to at least go down with a fight. And so I think that all those things combined, I think it could be a bit of a perfect storm for Cambridge. And again, I do like Stockport. I love the work that Dave Challoner's doing. It might be that they've just got too much quality for Cambridge, but I think Cambridge are going to put up a real fight, and I've got a feeling that they're going to get something this weekend and make a step towards giving themselves a chance of making a great escape. They've given themselves a lot of work to do, but I think they're going to get something on tomorrow.
Yeah, I think you make a very good case, and I am very wary of taking on Neil Harris when he goes into these clubs, because he does seem to just have an instant effect in a positive sense. I'm always a little bit reluctant to take Stockport on. I think they're a very good outfit, but I think the case you make, and factoring in that Cambridge are the home side here, and you've got the draw on side as well. There's plenty to like at even money, so I wouldn't disagree. I maybe wouldn't get as far as backing it myself, but I can certainly see the logic. Yeah, so we'll go into League Two for our final two picks then. I've already given you a clue as to where Gab is going in League Two, but before that, I will just wet your whistle with another one, and I'm going for an uneventful affair here. Bromley versus Harrogate is the game in question. I'm going to back under 1.5 goals in the match at 23-10. Well, if you want to be really simplistic about this, Bromley have won their last 2 games by a 1-0 scoreline, and also, Harrogate have been involved in 2 1-0. So maybe I'm just looking at the recent form and hoping that trend continues. But there is a little bit more to it than that, I must admit. If we look at Bromley first, the 2 1-0 wins there against MK Dons and Fleetwood, really important wins, I think, because their season was in real danger of just petering into a bit of a disappointment, really. They started so well. They were up in the top half of the League Two for a little while, punching well above their weight. And then they had this long winless run. I think they were winless in 6, but if you go a little bit further back, they had been struggling for a period. And what they've done is they've gone and got 2 good back-to-back wins that have put them, I think, 6 or 7 points outside the playoff places now, which is, let's be honest, Bromley probably haven't got enough to get themselves into that playoff picture. But that's a really good season for them. And they needed those 2 wins just to steady the decks, really, and let them enjoy the rest of the season, I think, in League Two. I looked at Andy Woodman's comments after the 1-0 win over Fleetwood, and he said that he felt like it hadn't quite been working at home, and he almost had to instill an away day type of mentality and just grind it out defence first against Fleetwood. And that's exactly what they did. They shut a decent Fleetwood side down, limited them to very few chances, and ultimately got their goal via Michael Cheek, who is a very useful man to have in your front line at League Two level. He's very much in the mix for the Golden Boot, isn't he? So sure. Good luck to him there. He's been fantastic stepping up to the EFL for the first time. But so I took note of when Woodman said that about the away day mentality. That's 2 1-0 wins now. And I generally think a team of Bromley's stature, if it ain't broke, don't try and fix it, really. I don't see why they need to go hammer and tongs anymore. I think if they could just maintain that level of control in this kind of game. And they're playing a Harrogate side who are really, really goal shy generally. 10 of their last 11 games have seen under 2.5 goals scored in the match. And 5 of those 10 have actually seen this under 1.5 goal line covered. Now, they've had some 1-0 wins. They've had some 1-0 losses. But it's generally games of fine margin with Harrogate at the moment. I think that's probably the way they've got to play it, because it's not a side... previously, Harrogate have had some great forward players, haven't they, in recent seasons, and they've been good for goals. But I look at this current Harrogate side, and I think they are lacking a little bit in forward areas. So that's probably the way they do have to play things. And I think they have a manager that's been at the club an awful long time and very good awareness of situations. And let's be honest, the goal for Harrogate is just to stay up now. They are still 5th bottom. They could get pulled into that relegation scrap if they're not careful. They got a very big win last weekend, again by a 1-0 scoreline. And I just see that both teams, there's no reason for either team to approach this in a kind of goal frenzy, going hammer and tongs for it way. Bromley have had a lot of success recently at just keeping things very basic, very low risk, and getting the job done. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if Harrogate, I do have respect for Harrogate in terms of being able to go and put in a solid defensive performance and nick a result here. They've had a few 1-0s recently. I could see this going 1-0 either way, and I do think the 0-0 is in play here. So that all roads led to me wanting to back the under 1.5 goals, which keeps all 3 of those outcomes on my side. And I'll just be hoping for a nice cagey affair. Don't really care who nicks it. With my Carlisle hat on, maybe Bromley. Just to keep another team in the mire. But yeah, I'm seeing it as a low XG encounter, and 23-10, a big price gets a little bit of my money there.
Yeah, I think when it comes to both teams, there's more to like about them defensively than going forward. Harrogate, I like James Belshaw, the goalkeeper, and Jasper Moon and Anthony O'Connor at centre halves. I think that's a sort of solid nucleus there. But I don't really think much of them as an attacking entity. With Bromley, a little bit different in the sense they've got Danny Imray on loan from Crystal Palace, and they've got Michael Cheek, who's one of the top goal scorers. But I wouldn't say as an attacking unit they're hugely creative and dangerous, but they have got a good goalkeeper in Grant Smith, who's made some great saves the other day. Kamal Grant, who's a defender, I think a lot of 6'5", can't even get in there to 11 at the moment. So that shows they've got a very strong defensive unit, and that's backed up by the results. So again, I think you're looking at 2 very solid defensive units. Wouldn't surprise me if it was a Michael Cheek goal and Bromley won 1-0.
Yeah, honestly, that is exactly how I'm picturing it in my head. 1-0 Cheek. And yeah, I very nearly went for Bromley 1-0, which is 6-1, the correct score. But I do have a little bit of respect for Harrogate and Simon Weaver. I think, they're very good at pulling out these results when they need them. So I think just safer to go with it being a pretty dull affair. And
cover all bases.
Yeah, I probably won't be buying the DVD of this game, put it that way. But mainly because I haven't got a DVD player anymore. But yeah, I don't think it's going to be one for the highlight reels, put it that way. Right, Gab, over to you for the most predictable pick of this week's show, I would say. And I can't argue with it, really. I hope you're right. Notts County, you're all faithful. They're taking on a Tranmere side who are struggling badly at the bottom end of League Two and desperately hoping that 2 teams remain worse than them, as it feels like a few teams are at the bottom of the league at the moment. But Notts County to win 2-0. It served you very well this season. 9-5 is the price against a pretty toothless Tranmere. This looks a good bet to me.
Yeah, I've spoken about why I rate Notts County very highly in previous episodes, so I don't think we need to sort of cover that ground again. So I'll focus more on Tranmere Rovers because they're in a very unusual situation where they've got a takeover that's coming through. It's just being ratified and it's in the final stages. However, they're approaching the last 2 or 3 games before that happens. And I think once a takeover happens, I think they'll pay off Nigel Adkins and they'll bring in a new manager. And I'm pretty confident that when they get that new manager, combined with the sort of feel-good factor of the takeover, they might get enough results to sort of see them over the line. However, until then, they're in this weird situation where the Palioses aren't going to sack Nigel Adkins because they think somebody else is going to basically incur that cost. And Nigel Adkins isn't going to walk out because he'd be doing himself out of a pretty significant fee. And so that's where you have
And
this.
maybe his last job in the EFL, Gab, as well. Is it fair to say?
Possibly, yeah. I think his stock has fallen. I could maybe see him going upstairs into a different kind of role. But certainly, yeah, probably on the touchline. I think this could be the last time. Yeah, so I think it's going to be it's an awkward situation for Tranmere, and I can't really see them getting a result at Notts County. And the other thing is, like you say, they're toothless up top. I don't think Josh Davison was the striker they needed in the summer because he can't really hit a barn door. And Christian Dennis, isn't the most mobile at this stage of his career either. So they're very limited up top. And they've got another player called Josh Hawkes on the left wing who can score goals, but has been out of favour with Adkins. I mean, there's a world where Hawkes comes in after Adkins goes and maybe finds some form, but while Adkins is in charge, it doesn't look like he's going to get a look in. So, Tranmere Rovers are in disarray at the moment, so I can't see them scoring, and I think Notts County are going to win.
Yeah, and we don't, like you said, we don't need to go into Notts County in great detail, but a team we both rate very highly. And the one thing Notts County have got is an array of attacking talent, haven't they? Jatta, McGoldrick, and then you could go a little bit deeper with Grant, and there's just so many likely players there. Yeah, I can't pick holes in that. I think you're spot on. I think it's a great
9-5 as well, Matt. I think is a pretty helpful.
That's it. I mean, yes, you're taking a leap with these 2-0 bets because they can just die instantly. But I mean, this is a Tranmere side that just don't look like scoring most of the time, do they? I know they killed me last week. I put MK Dons up, which was going swimmingly till an 80th minute penalty. But again, it's a penalty. I mean, from open play, they're creating next to nothing. So I'm very much on with this bet. I know Adam Drury, who writes our EFL tips as well, has put the exact same thing up as well. Notts County to 0, or I think he might have gone for Jatta anytime goal scorer actually, but with very similar logic to yourself really. So I think good community pick there, and I'm pretty happy with our picks this week. I know I say this every week, but I think that's a good looking little slate this week. Let's take one more look at them before we wrap things up. Then we're starting with Gab's selections, and Gab, for me, I really like the Blackburn draw no bet against Swansea, and I like Notts County to win to 0 versus Tranmere. To be honest, Notts County is probably my favourite of the three. Would that be the same for you, or?
I'm liking that 9-5. Yeah.
Given the big price, yeah, definitely. Well, these are my three. I quite like all three of them this weekend. If I was leaning, I will just stick with my corners. I'm just going to remind everyone that I've gone really aggressive with that line. You know, you could just play it safe with 9.5, but we're not playing things safe here on this channel. We're going for the jugular. 11
Don't cut any corners, Matt.
Yeah, I won't be cutting any corners. Gav gets his regular corner joke in for the end, and that feels like a great place to wrap the show up, doesn't it? As I accidentally removed Gab from the stage.
Was the pun that bad?
Accidentally remove you from the stage. Yeah. No, well, I hope you enjoyed this week's EFL Betting Show. Let us know what you're backing this EFL weekend in the comments. And if you enjoyed the show, please do give us a thumb up. We'll see you next week on Odds Now. Have a great week and hope you back some winners. Take care.